my friends, and welcome back to the studio. David Kessler here, and I have a viewer request for this video from many months ago, and I'm just getting around to addressing it. And the question is, what do you do when you get stuck on a painting? So I think there's two things, at least there's two things that I would do if I thought I was stuck on a painting. Number one would be I would go back to my intentions for the painting so that I could reinforce my intentions. And number two is I would have to have some sort of a baseline criteria that I use to evaluate my paintings. Now, I'll start by saying that I can't remember having ever been stuck on a painting. Now that doesn't mean I don't paint a lot of crappy paintings. I do. Most of what I paint, other people never see because it's so terrible that it gets either covered with gesso or torn up and thrown in the trash. But I can't remember ever being stuck on a painting. Let's talk about intentions first. You have to have, or I would assume that you would have, every time you begin a painting, you would have some sort of intentions for the creation of the work. Now these intentions can be very simple. For instance, maybe your intent is to, explore a red and green complementary color combination. It can be as simple as that. But those intentions will begin to direct what it is that you do in the painting. So that if you become stuck, you go back to your intention and say, okay, here was my intention. How can I move forward with that intention from here? The most important thing, I believe, is to have some sort of criteria from which you develop your process in your studio for developing your work. For instance, for me, I always use 5 design fundamentals as the baseline criteria for everything I do in the studio. Those 5 criteria or fundamentals are shape, value, color, edges, and center of interest. So if in fact I thought I was stuck somewhere on a painting, I would go back to those 5 things. So maybe I would take 5 minutes, sit down in my thinking chair and really look at the painting to say, okay, are my shapes good enough? Are they interesting? Do they interlock with their neighbors? Do they overlap? Do they catch my interest? Do they allow my eye to move through the painting? Are they connected in some way, leaving passages between shapes? I would look at the values. I would take a picture with my phone to see if my values, I use a sort of a 4-value system. I would take that black and white picture, look at my 4-value pattern that I have up on the wall, compare the two to make sure that my values are in line with my typical 4-value system. With regard to color, I would say, hey, does this painting go back to the intentions that I had for the color combination for the painting? Am I on track with my color combination? With regard to edges, I would say, okay, do I have a variety of edges? Do I have hard edges that draw my attention to my center of interest? And do I have blended edges in other areas away from the centers of interest that allow the eye to move through the painting? And the 5th one, center of interest. Have I developed a center of interest or multiple centers of interest in the painting? Because that's going to be your most important part of your painting, right? The most important thing, as I call it, that's where Paul Newman shows up, right? That's where the star of the painting shows up. Do I have those so that they work? Do they pop off the page? Does my eye go there? Have I put enough interest in those areas to actually make them a center of interest? So that is what I would do if I was a painter. I would have intentions for the work. I would have some baseline criteria from which to analyze the work to know where it is that I need to go if in fact I get stuck somewhere on a painting. You have to remember, you have to be able to move forward, right, on a painting. You can't just be stuck there and worry about it, because you're expending positive energy on something that's negative, right? So you need to move forward. So however you determine you want to have intentions or criteria or something to analyze your work, I would highly recommend that, because it helps you to move forward in a painting. All right, so hopefully this was helpful for you. And if you want to learn more about these kinds of things, please join me for a workshop somewhere in the country. I'll put a link to my website with the workshop page on my website down below the video. Please leave a comment if you have comments, or if there are questions that I can help you with, please put those there as well. And if you think it's good, share it with your friends. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.